Okay, let's talk about education. We know Hitler is not a normal politician. He is not content with letting people think what they would like of him. He's determined to create a state or a regime that's going to last, way into the future, 1,000-year Reich. One way he wants to do this, one avenue he thinks that will help him do this, is through education, through the schooling system. He can use the schooling system to ensure that all the young people in Germany are brought up with Nazi ideas, with Nazi ideology being an everyday part of their life. So schooling, as it is today, is incredibly important to Hitler. More so for him because he is not content to let people think in any particular direction. He wants to brainwash them. He wants to indoctrinate them with Nazi ideas and Nazi values from a very young age. In that way, he can make sure that the children grow up with these ideas, and he can also make sure that the children will kind of listen to him and his message, or his party's message, rather than the views and opinions of their own parents. He can bypass the parents, if you like, by going through the minds of young people, through the minds of children. Okay, how is he going to do that? Well, firstly, he's going to make sure that all teachers in Germany follow his program and push his ideas. How can he do that? He makes all teachers join the German Teachers League. And if they're not prepared to join the German Teachers League, they are not allowed to work, so they would lose their job. So you find that many teachers all over Germany will join this organisation simply to keep their job and to keep on working. Okay, so all the teachers come on board. Some of them are fanatical Nazis, but in the main they probably join this organisation just to keep their job. So the teachers are all on Hitler's side. Okay, what did they do with the timetable? They changed the timetable. Not totally. You would probably recognise similarities with your own timetable, but they do change it for various reasons. One thing they do is expand the amount of time given over to PE. Some 15% of time in the timetable was given over to PE. Why would they do that? It's obvious when you think about it. They're preparing the nation for war. They want young, fit men to be lined up or groomed to be soldiers. So PE is an ideal vehicle to do that. Even girls as well are given a large amount of time over to PE, the same allocated time. Why? Because they need them to be fit, to be able to breed, to be fertile, to produce the children who are going to eventually populate Greater Germany, because we know that Hitler wants to expand the borders of the Reich, of the Empire, and he will need children, and he will need Germans to populate these conquered areas. Lebensraum, of course, living space for the German nation, because he equates the size of the country and the size of the population with the power of the country. So he wants the girls to be fit and healthy to produce the children that are going to populate the area that Germany conquers later on during the war. Okay, so the timetable is altered. PE is given greater prominence for both boys and girls. What lessons are brought in? Many of the lessons you would recognise from your timetable. History, geography, science, maths. However, he's not content to leave those subjects alone. He uses those subjects as vehicles for his ideas. How does he do that? In history, for example, the history books are all rewritten. They become Nazi history books, and they will tell a story of the First World War which is very different from the one that you have been taught. In this version of events, not Hitler, but the Germans are the victims of the peace treaty. They have largely won the war. They have lost the war only because people have been stabbing them in the back, communists back at home. So the history, the recent history of Germany, is altered to give it a Nazi twist. Similarly, in geography, the children would be looking at maps of pre-war Germany, before land was stripped away from them, colouring in various parts of the German map to indicate, this has been lost to Alsace-Lorraine, this has been lost to Poland. Again, a normal geography lesson is being twisted or subverted with Nazi ideas. Even maths. The sums and the questions that the children are being asked, not all of the time, but sometimes, are twisted to have a Nazi message within them. For example, a question could be asking, how many Deutschmarks or Reichsmarks does it take to keep a mentally disabled person living in a hospital? and they would be asked to calculate the various sums involved. The message that is being pushed there is that, you know, these people are a burden on our society, let's get rid of them, which of course was part of Nazi ideology. Or the question might ask some algebraic equation to do with the bombing of a certain city, or the arc of a gun and the distance travelled by a shell, so that in every single subject ideas of militarism, of nationalism, of racial superiority are dripped into every subject. Okay, that's the ordinary timetable. The Nazis also introduced a couple of new topics. One of them is called racial science, and in this lesson the children would learn about the superiority of the Aryan race, and they would be given instructions on how to identify a member of the Aryan race, and they would look at the colour of each other's hair, the colour of each other's eyes. They would measure the width of the skull, the length of the skull, and look at the various types of Aryans that all the children came under. So again, this message of Aryan superiority would be pumped into the children once or twice a week. Another lesson, a new lesson within the timetable, would be eugenics, and this would emphasise the importance, the absolute essential importance of keeping the race pure, never letting the race of the Germans be polluted by Jewish blood. And eugenics is the study of breeding, and of course breeding is essential to Hitler and the Nazis because he intends to create a 100% master race of Aryans. So new subjects being brought into the syllabus. Okay, let's encapsulate, let's sum up. What do we have in terms of education? Education is absolutely vital for Hitler and the Nazis. Teachers all have to come on board, all have to become members of the German Teachers League. The timetable is altered to give more prominence to PE. 15% of the timetable is given over to PE to prepare boys to be fit and healthy to join the army, girls to be fit and healthy to be mothers in the future. Lessons are all twisted or altered to include elements of Nazi ideology within them. Sometimes so subtle that you wouldn't even notice, the children wouldn't even notice what was being dripped into their minds. Indoctrination is the word we're looking at. New lessons are also brought in. Racial science and eugenics, again, the pair of them both feed in this idea of the superiority of the Aryan race. So for Hitler, young people are incredibly important. Education and schooling is a perfect vehicle to brainwash these very, very susceptible young people. Okay, that's education.